everybody, Rochelle here from Quebec, CICHLIDS. Today I will be giving you information about the famous jewel cichlid. I've been asked this a lot, so stay tuned, you don't want to miss this video. As usual, before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. I post plenty of fishy videos, so make sure not to miss a single one. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rochelle, and I own a local fish store in Terrebonne, Quebec. I am open to the public, so if ever you're around, don't hesitate to stop by and see the fish. So enough about me, now let's get back to our fishy business. Hemicromis, now that is the scientific name for the jewel cichlids. They are a flamboyant fish found in the rivers of the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as Gabon. You can also find them following the west coast up to the Ivory Coast. They are a popular cichlid, really popular, yet they are kind of misunderstood. Already, the fact that I told you that they are an African cichlid probably confused some of you. Well, this is because there's so much misinformation out there about this fish, and I hope to clarify this in this video. And one of the most commonly heard that I hear misinformation about this video is that it's an American cichlid. It is not. There are no American jewel cichlids. So if somebody tells you it's an American cichlid, just tell them it's not. And if they want to argue, just honestly Google it. It's like the top results. You'll figure it out and show them, because you are right if you're saying that it's an African cichlid. A little bit more about this fish. There are plenty of different varieties on the market, and they all have their particularities. Unfortunately, most suppliers don't properly identify their jewel cichlids. This doesn't mean the cichlid won't be nice or beautiful, won't color up. It just means that if you're looking for a specific species, well, you might run into some difficulties. And if you've tried identifying it online, don't even bother. Most of the pictures are badly identified anyways, and I haven't been able to find a book that describes each species and their particular colors. I guess not enough people care about that, and regardless of the species you get, you're likely going to have a beautiful fish. So it's like a little problem, but not a big problem. And honestly, even I am no better than these stores that I am talking about. I claim to be a fish geek, as you can see, but there is a huge lack of information out there about the jewel identification. If you ask me what jewel you have, I will not be able to answer, but I'll be able to tell you how to care for it in this video. I just don't know if that particular shade of red is for a Gutatus or a Lifalilia. As for size, jewels will grow between 4 and 6 inches, depending on the species, and you won't know which species they are, so good luck. The females are often a lot smaller and will grow to about 3 to 4 inches. Most jewels are red, with 1 or 2 black spots on their body. Some varieties have yellow bellies and or yellow tails to tell them apart. Sometimes in the same batch of fries, you'll have some fry with, well, some obviously when they're bigger, they'll have some that have yellow tails and some will have red tails in the same batch. So good luck identifying that. If you do tell me, that's usually the ones I get. Usually the male will be bigger than the female in like a established tank. But if you're buying them at the fish store, keep in mind that people usually buy the bigger one. So the bigger one isn't necessarily the male. So it's not an indicator at all at the fish store. Some people will say that the female is more colorful, but that's bullshit. The males color up just as much. The only way I've ever been able to tell the males and the females apart, well, there are 2 ways. First, it's through watching their behavior. The males will often fight within each other, so that's an easy male. For the females, it's a little harder. They'll probably mostly defend the territory, but the males will do that also, so you can't tell that with the female. But for the males, you can. As for defending territory, both males and females will do that, so it's not really an indicator of anything. Really, you just have to look at how they're interacting with the other fish. And the surefire way to do this is to vent them once they're of course more mature. If they're not mature, you won't be able to vent them. And you take a look at, basically venting means looking at their genitals, and I will refer you to another video where I show you how to do this, and I will link it in the video description. It's how to tell the males and the females apart. Go to the last section in the video about venting. That's pretty much going to be your best indicator for it. Just like most cichlids, jewel cichlids are aggressive and aren't compatible with all fish. Don't keep them in a community tank. This means tanks with fragile community fish, such as tetras, guppies, bettas, etc. Of course, they are compatible with bigger, tougher community fish, such as, let's say, rainbow fish or little sharks as well. Those are a lot of fun. Loaches, they're compatible with the tougher one. Tiny, fragile aquascaping fish, just refrain from those, basically. They will destroy your fish. They are, on the other hand, compatible and adaptable with other cichlids, but not all cichlids. I'll get to that later on. So if you want a peaceful tank, which you probably do, only keep one jewel cichlid unless you want to breed them, but that's aside the subject. Keep one jewel cichlid. I usually sell them alone. They won't be lonely, they have other friends with them, they'll be fine. When they're kept as a couple, they can get aggressive during their mating period. If you want to keep them though as a couple and breed them, make sure you have a backup tank. For when the inevitable happens, they will become aggressive and they will shove all the other fish in a corner and take over the whole part of the aquarium that they want to use, which is something like 90% of the aquarium. They like a lot of room to do their business. Anyways, you can't miss it. When you see that, it's obviously that. It can only mean one thing. So you have to be careful with who you're mixing them with because they're aggressive. Also, jewels are monogamous, meaning that when they choose a partner, they pair for life. So if you add two that aren't paired, be ready to separate them if they don't pair up. One will become aggressive towards the other and they will kill it. I've seen it happen. If a couple doesn't get along, it probably won't get along. This fish will not settle for less, and neither should you, because you deserve the best. As for the fish, if you want to keep them in the school, have a backup tank in case a couple pairs up and starts being aggressive towards the others. Of course, I often get them in big batches at my shop, and I don't sell them overnight. I have a small store, so they often live pretty well in a big school, but the colors won't pop for all the fish in the tank, as some will be subdominant. Many of them will be bright red, but some won't be, some will still be white. But eventually, when I take some out, because I'm selling the redder ones, obviously, people aren't buying the subdominant ones, and the white ones will eventually, they all end up coloring up. Regardless of male or female, if it's the same batch, they usually will all color up. So for American cichlids, they are compatible with most American cichlids as long as the others aren't too big that the jewel will fit in their mouth. Not with an adult Oscar. If you have a tiny jewel, just use your judgment. Like jaguars are compatible with much, but most semi-peaceful, semi-aggressive American cichlids are compatible with them as long as they don't get too big. Also, on the other hand, I would refrain from keeping them with smaller, more fragile species such as Apistogramma or Ramirezi, because obviously the small ones will get eaten by your jewels. Great American cichlids, just to give you a couple examples of what's compatible with jewels, are Geophagus, Severums, Acaras, I like the electric blue ones. Even convex cichlids are compatible with jewels. Jewel cichlids are also compatible with African riverine cichlids, such as the Crebensis, the buffalo head cichlids, just to mention the two most popular ones. As for rift lake cichlids, so cichlids from lakes Malawi, Victoria, and Tanganyika, they are not compatible with all of them. I keep them usually with Lake Malawi and Bunas or peacocks and haps, and I would refrain from keeping them with most Lake Tanganyika cichlids as they are more fragile. Certain Lake Tanganyika cichlids are tough, let's say the Tretocephalus or exceptions like that. Like the tough ones, it would be okay, but the fragile ones, such as Princess of Burundi, if you want to mix them, just be cautious about that and make sure the tank is big enough and that they have enough hiding spots. If you're keeping them with rift lake cichlids, there is a certain parameter you have to check, that is the pH. The pH is usually a lot higher for African cichlids, so you are going to want to adapt them to that pH. At my store, I mainly sell them with African cichlids, so I just do that job on my own, and they're already in the same pH as my other cichlids. But if you're buying them from a local fish store that has their pH around 7, well, you're going to want to drip acclimate them to your African cichlid tank to make sure that it's not too much of a stressful transition. Jewel cichlids in the hobby are usually domestic bred, so they will adapt to the pH. Just if you're able to do it slowly and give them time to adapt, well, that's just better, because we want to really take care of our fish. The minimum tank size for jewel cichlids is 30 gallons. The bigger the tank, the more other fish you'll be able to add with them. In that size tank, 30 gallons, only add 1 jewel. Don't add 2, they will get too aggressive. If you had a breeding couple, they should be fine, but they have to be together, just them. Like, you can keep a breeding couple together in the 30 gallons, that is fine. It's just if you want to mix them in with other fish, then that's maybe not the best. The pH in the aquarium has to be between 6.5 to 8. They are very adaptable when it comes to water parameters. Obviously, like all other fish, regardless of what they are extremely sensitive to ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. Ammonia and nitrite always have to be at 0. If you have ammonia and nitrite in your tank, it's because you didn't cycle it properly, or something happened and you lost your cycle. If you have ammonia and nitrite in your aquarium, it hurts the fish, it prevents them from breathing properly, and they will die. So get that fixed. I have a whole video about how to get rid of ammonia and nitrite in your tank, conveniently made for you. So don't panic, go watch the video and do what's said in that video. I will obviously link it in the video description. As for nitrate, that usually happens when we fed too much or we don't have good maintenance habits. Basically, I have a whole video on how to get rid of nitrate that I will also link, but you're gonna have to work hard and get into a better routine for keeping your fish, and you're gonna have a lot of work to do just to get that nitrate under control. But they are sensitive to this, and it's a slow killer, so you don't see it at first, and it's something that really just accumulates in the aquarium. So if you have trouble with this, they will usually be less colorful, they won't have as much energy as they did, and often they'll just pick up a bunch of diseases along the way and they'll die. And you won't know because they lived for so long in that aquarium with a lot of nitrate, but it's a slow killer, so you're gonna have to get that under control. As for substrate, they don't need a specific substrate, but since the fish is a substrate spawner, I prefer the finer substrates, meaning the smaller grain substrates for breeding, as the fry will be on top of it. As for decorations, make sure to give them a nice cave that they can make their home and spawn their fry in. As for live plants, they might uproot some of the more fragile plants, so you just be careful with that. They are an African cichlid after all, and their behavior is kind of like the mbunas when it comes to plants. So, you know, anubias, java ferns, any epiphyt plant really is A1 for these fish. And if you don't have a green thumb, they're pretty easy plants as well. Hemichromis are omnivores, and they will adapt to the diet that you're feeding your fish. They are a very easy fish to feed and don't often have digestive problems, unless you're feeding them bad food. I feed mine Northfin veggie formula because I usually keep them in a tank with mbunas. So they will gladly take the veggie formula, cichlid formula. They also enjoy frozen foods such as krill and mysis shrimp, or brine shrimp and cyclops for the babies. I don't feed mine bloodworms because I keep them with Rift Lake cichlids, and bloodworms are a big no-no for those fish. So I've never fed them with that. Put an established couple together in a 30-gallon tank with a nice cave and a bit of decorations. As for filtration, use a cycled sponge filter. Avoid hang-on back filters or canister filters if you want to breed them, because the fry are very small and they will get eaten. So honestly, sponge filters all the way. As for substrate, use a fine substrate. It doesn't have to be the finest one on the market as long as it's not very coarse. Jewel cichlids, as you see in this video, are substrate spawners. They will lay 200 to 400 eggs in one batch. Obviously, they won't all survive. They are incredible parents though, and will protect their fry from danger. So you won't find jewel cichlids who accidentally ate their fry. After after 1 week, you can start feeding the fry baby brine shrimp, frozen cyclops, or fry powder. When they are bigger, you can start adding flake food. They don't have to be very big because let's face it, we all have some leftover dust at the bottom of our pots. You can feed them that. Once the fry are big enough, you can even switch them to some pellets when they're a decent size. When you're up to feeding your fry pellets, that means you did a good job. And if you want another batch of fry, because they will not breed with this current batch of fry, or if your fry are simply getting too big and they're cramped in the aquarium, you just grab them all out with your net and move them to another growing tank. And congratulations, because you're now caught with an industrial production of jewel cichlids. So yay! I don't know if that's what you were expecting, but that's what you got. Hey, life is chaotic, what do you expect? So that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. Have you ever kept jewel cichlids? What fish did you mix them with? Tell me about it in the comments section. I'd love to know. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to make sure not to miss a single video. And if you want more fishy content in between my videos, well, you can follow me on all of social media. I have the links in the video description and on the screen. So you can follow me there and see all my awesome pictures and fish adventures. Also, if you like this fabulous Fish Geek t-shirt, you can get it in my Teespring store. Every shirt you get encourages me to continue doing what I'm doing, making these awesome videos and owning my local fish store, and it's extremely appreciated. So thank you to everyone who supports me every week in my Teespring store, in my YouTube channel, and in my actual physical store in Terrebonne, Quebec. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.